his book Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Creatures are not born with desires unless satisfaction for those desires exists. A baby feels hunger. Well, there is such a thing as food. A duckling wants to swim. Well, there is such a thing as water. If I find in myself," he notes, "a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. If none of my earthly pleasures satisfy it, that does not mean that the universe is a fraud. Probably earthly pleasures were never meant to satisfy it, but only to arouse it, to suggest the real thing." You know, when Jesus was tempted by the devil, in Matthew's account, the third and final temptation, as you see in verse 8, is the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said, "All these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve." If you could just think about the magnitude of this temptation, could we, if we put ourselves in Jesus' shoes, honestly say we would respond in the same way that Jesus did? Think about it. All of the kingdoms in their glory. When I think of men like Alexander the Great and other leaders of times past, that's exactly what they were pursuing and would have gladly sold their soul to the devil to have the things that Jesus could have had. I mean, think about all of the power that the devil offered Jesus, which would have brought a lot of possessions too, wouldn't it? And not just possessions, it would have brought pleasure and fame and so many other things that people today are striving for and living for as the most important thing in their life. Very powerful temptation. But the truth is, as we see Jesus' example here, we're led to the reality, and in harmony with what Mr. Lewis wrote in his book, that the truth is even if we're able to succeed in all of the goals that we want and obtain all the power that we can have, and have all the possessions we want and pleasure we could pursue, it's still not going to satisfy us. There's still something within us that is a longing or a desire that nothing in this world that can fill, that as Solomon wrote about in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and in particular in verse 11 it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time, but he has put eternity in their hearts." We're made in God's image, and we're made with an eternal longing of something beyond this life. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care how big we build our buildings, how large the homes we live in, how many possessions we have, and how many people we control, the only thing that can fill that void is a relationship with God, and realizing that our purpose is to serve and glorify Him, and the joy and the satisfaction that in being right with Him when this life is over, we go to live with Him eternally.